Telling women to endure sex in the name of God is potentially causing grave harm to women. Hi beautiful people! So today I'm responding to another gemstone brought to you by the author of Men Prefer Debt-Free Virgins Without Tattoos. For this one we are talking about sexual assault. The Transformed Wives' latest video is called
Should wives have sex when they don't feel like it?
And although she reiterates,
let's not talk about marital rape, me teaching marital rape, because I don't.
It will become clear how Lori's message of submission not only completely dismisses the reality of marital rape, but also massively oversimplifies the complications that can come with sex. Not to mention, Lori completely fails to mention that women's bodies were made for pleasure too. If God created women, He created us with a clitoris.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Before we begin, I would like to mention that I've got no hate or animosity for Lori, the transformed wife. Growing up in church, I am very familiar with the messages that she's regurgitating, and I truly believe that her heart is in the right place. However, just because her husband has never used Ephesians 5:22 to manipulate her or to violate her body doesn't mean that no Christian man ever has. And although she does add this caveat to the video description, if you are married to an evil or angry man that physically abuses you, seek help and protection. She's also neglecting to realize that abuse is insidious. We don't live in a world where bad guys are easily identified like Bond villains. Abusers are people we have fallen in love with, perhaps even devoted our lives to or had children with. Abuse includes gaslighting, manipulation, withdrawing you from loved ones, and breaking down your self-esteem. And yes, that person can be your husband or wife. Not to mention, Lori has a gross misunderstanding for the definition of rape.
True rape is when you're assaulted against your will by some stranger.
This is infuriatingly untrue. According to the National Sexual Violence Resource Center and every other poll ever taken, victims usually know their assaulter. 51.1% are raped by an intimate partner and 40.8% by an acquaintance. Also, Lori never got the memo that marital rape was criminalized in 1993. Way too recently for me, but also over 20 years ago. So Lori's question: should wives have sex when they don't feel like it?
Should you not prepare your children food because you don't feel like it? And how come sex is this sacred cow to most women?
First of all, you're asking why sex is a sacred cow to most women? Oh, I don't know. Maybe because the church tells women from a young age that our virginity is our most valuable asset, that if we give it away or lose it or it's stolen, that we are inherently less valuable than we were before, that we are chewed up bubble gum if we have sex with somebody. I don't know. Maybe that's why Christian women think sex is such a sacred cow.
You not clean the toilet ever because, ew, that's just a gross job and you just don't feel like it.
How can you, in the Christian community, simultaneously tell women that virginity is the most valuable, important, and precious asset a woman can possess, and at the same time compare the act of sex to cleaning a toilet?
Should your husband go to work every day and work hard and provide for his family if he doesn't feel like it?
In her blog, she belittles women as lesser than biblical if they take jobs outside the home. But the majority of American households can't afford to live off one income. Often, women have to work. Does this mean women can demand sex from their husbands? Which brings me to a sad point. Is the transformed wife implying she's never seen sex as more than a duty? That she really compares it to cleaning a nasty toilet? My friend Dr. Julie Slattery and I don't agree on everything, primarily LGBT issues, but she's doing great work counseling for Christian marriages. She said it's unfortunately common that Christian women's pleasure is neglected or misunderstood, that many couples go crazy waiting to have sex, but when they finally hit the marriage bed, they find sex unfulfilling. And some Christians try to argue that marriage is immediate, irrevocable, lifelong consent because Ephesians 5:22 reads, "Wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands as you do to the Lord." But I'll remind you, this verse is a two-way street. It goes on to say, "Husbands, love your wives just as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her." Husbands ought to love their wives as their own bodies. The answer for Christians isn't to use the Bible to pound submission into the less interested partner, but to truly use Ephesians as the verse commands. If husbands are to love and honor their wives and their bodies as deeply as Christ loved the church, that is utmost compassion, connection, and love. That is not do as I say, I own your body. Now, Lori dives back in to say,
I've never once ever said or written, yes, men, rape your wives. I don't teach men. I only teach women.
Okay, so let's see what she's teaching women.
One woman wrote me and asked me if her husband had raped her because she had told him she didn't want to have sex. She woke up in the middle of the night. He was having sex with her. So she wanted to know if that was marital rape. And I said, well, do you feel like you need to call the police and have him locked in jail? No, she doesn't want to put her husband, doesn't want to call the authorities and put him in jail because he woke her up in the middle of the night and was having sex with her.
What a contradiction. By emotionally and spiritually manipulating the mind of a woman, yes, you are promoting marital rape. And men can thereby use this teaching to spiritually manipulate their wives. Also, if a woman ever wrote me and asked if I thought she had been raped, I would never have the audacity to give an outright no and a Bible verse. Lori never bothered to ask the details of her marriage, whether or not she felt violated after the act, whether or not she's in an abusive relationship. She just reiterates again that women are made to fulfill men's sexual needs. These clips are also scary because she's implying that when you suffer sexually, you're suffering in the name of God.
The Bible commands that we do not deprive our husbands of sexual intimacy. No, he calls us to deny ourselves, and Paul says that he disciplines his body for the purpose of godliness.
Telling women to endure sex in the name of God is potentially causing grave harm to women. Sex is not always easy and painless. Endometriosis, for example, is real and can cause debilitatingly painful sex. And last but not least, here's her final glaring contradiction. She continues to say, women, do not go by your feelings.
So instead of living our lives by our feelings and our want-tos, let's live our lives by being obedient to God and doing what He calls us to do, even when we don't feel like it.
But when it comes to men, she makes all kinds of excuses.
Sometimes men just, in the middle of the night, there's a woman, their wife, laying next to them, and they just start wanting to have sex with them.
I'm sorry, is sexual urge not a feeling?
You just have this need to want sex, and so they start having sex with their wives.
This is a lie women have been told again and again and again, that men are irrepressible, uncontrollable beasts when it comes to sexuality. Men have free will, they are perfectly capable of exercising self-control, and no, we don't have to submit just because their animal urges are overwhelming them. Men can control their feelings too. In conclusion, this video isn't to say you shouldn't be making sacrifices for the person that you're with. Sometimes when you're in a long-term relationship, one of you does not feel like having sex. And yes, sometimes it's the really kind thing to do to maintain that connection, to honor the person you're with, to just go ahead and have sex with them. It can even become very enjoyable. But if there are deep emotional or spiritual rifts in that relationship, or someone is enduring pain, things that Lori completely neglected to mention, then those need to be addressed by either a doctor or a therapist. We should not be complacent about pain. Maybe they've hurt us. Maybe they aren't honoring us. Maybe our love languages aren't matched up and we feel completely disconnected. I only harp on a video like this because it really displays the most insidious and low-key ways that the church or this really bad doctrine can harm people, especially when it comes to their sexual health. I know Lori's intention was the opposite, but I cannot let a video like this sit on the internet supposedly representing Christianity and sex. Come on, Christians, we can do better. I love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, donate to my Patreon or Venmo if you can. I love you guys so much. God bless.